Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hekalatos, your friendly Legion's leader, here for another review. This one of our brothers in Legacy of Chaos, Holyone. Now, Holyone and I have been talking for a long time now about the relative strengths of the Sith faction and really trying to brainstorm how do we use these amazing characters in such a light side and rebel dominated arena. And so Holyone and I have been bouncing back and forth and asked a while ago if I could look at his Sith squad, see what changes could be made, how they could be made stronger, what differences, what substitutions. So this will not necessarily be a deep roster review as I have done for others recently. This will be primarily an in-depth look at the Sith faction and kind of a review of the whole faction. So if you're intrigued by the Sith, or you like to use Sith, or you want to figure out how to use them or what kind of teams you could put together, this is the review for you. Because Holyone has done a fantastic job gearing out all of his Sith. He has a lot of them with mods, and he has almost all of these Sith Zetas. So, it was a lot of fun looking over his roster, seeing what he could do, what changes to make, what different teams to put together. So, let's just jump right in, because I could talk about Sith forever, and now I get a chance to. So, Holyone, thank you for asking. And I look right here and I see you're running a Zeta Maul lead with a Savage, a Darth Nihilus who has his wound in the Force Zetaed, Emperor Palpatine, and Darth Vader. Now at Arena Rank 77, I know it's not where you want to be. This could possibly be towards the end of your day. Maybe you've been dropping rank. Maybe you haven't done your attempts in yet. But I know you would rather be much higher. So let's jump right into your Sith and see what you've got and see what we can work with. So let's check out your inventory. And I mean, just by looking at the top of your roster here, you see Darth Maul, Darth Vader, Savage Opress, Darth Sidious, Darth Nihilus, Emperor Palpatine. So there is a lot of strong Sith up here at the top. So that's pretty awesome. Like I said, a lot of really good things to work with. So let's kind of focus in a little bit more and see what we're working with. And you notice you have all of your Sith except for the Sith Assassin at gear 10 or 11, and all of them except for Darth Nihilus and Sith Assassin at 7 stars. So more power to you. You've actually got way more gear on your Sith than I do, so I'm a little jealous. But the Sith faction generally has 3 recommended leads for the whole faction. You have either a Darth Maul lead, a Darth Vader lead, or a Darth Nihilus lead. And I have actually put together 3 different groups for you to use or consider, see how they work for you. And because he is ubiquitous, I also have recommended General Kenobi in most of those squads, since I see you have him unlocked and currently at gear 8. So first, Darth Maul. With Darth Maul, I would make sure that I have my Savage Opress and my Darth Nihilus there. And I would also probably use either some combination of Sith Trooper, General Kenobi, or Count Dooku in with the rest of them. If not Count Dooku, Emperor Palpatine. So again, Sith Trooper, General Kenobi, or Emperor Palpatine / Count Dooku to fill out the last 2 places in that Darth Maul Zeta squad. That squad is built on a lot of survivability. You have your Darth Maul for that initial punch from your Sith. Darth Nihilus is just a phenomenal character with his cooldown reduction, his cooldown increase for everybody else. Savage for his just insane survivability tied in with the evasion and his limited cleansing capabilities. Sith Trooper with Darth Maul's evasion lead is nigh unkillable if he is modded to the best of your ability. Count Dooku is another great choice here, but I feel the evasion, or I'm sorry, not the evasion, the evasion and the stealth kind of limits his countering capabilities, which is what he is best for. And I would generally use Emperor Palpatine over Count Dooku under a Darth Maul lead, because Emperor Palpatine hits like a truck, and that stealth is really good for him because he is super squishy and dies very easily. The one thing all dark side lacks, and Sith in particular, is a cleanse, which General Kenobi could bring to this group for you. Not only a cleanse, but he can also give everybody retribution, and his calling all of your guys to attack in one shot can pretty much turn the tide of the battle for you. If you don't want to use Darth Maul, perhaps a Darth Vader lead with a Darth Sidious. Those two go hand in hand, because your Darth Sidious does have the Zeta. You will do a lot of dots with that group. You would definitely want to watch out for Rex teams or teams with Chirrut and their tenacity up, because that would severely limit the viability of Darth Vader and Darth Sidious, but they're definitely there to be used. To go along with the two of them, Darth Nihilus, obviously. One, because Darth Nihilus can cleanse that tenacity up, but also if your Darth Sidious is fast enough and goes first and puts dots on everybody, your Darth Nihilus can come behind it and increase all of their cooldowns. I personally like Count Dooku with Darth Vader, especially if there's no taunt, because those extra counters can come in quite handy. And if you do have the Zeta on Count Dooku, he is very difficult to kill. And the fifth one would be a true tank of some sort, either in the form of Sith Trooper or General Kenobi. Either one is up to you, because they both have their strengths, and they both could be quite useful here. The third option under a Darth Nihilus lead, since your Sith Assassin is not truly viable, my first choice under a Darth Nihilus lead would be Count Dooku, because the increased damage on basic, his heal on basic, like, it's almost impossible to kill a Dooku under a Darth Nihilus lead without a heal and or buff immunity. So you definitely want to put your Count Dooku under Darth Nihilus. For your third choice, Savage is not a bad option, though without the Sith Assassin hitting behind the protection so much, Savage Opress is severely limited, especially because his HOTS from his Zeta don't work. So perhaps a Darth Sidious or even a Darth Vader could work under your Nihilus. And then the combination of both tanks, Sith Trooper and General Kenobi, is a very strong coupling under Darth Nihilus. So, to recap, if you want to use the Darth Maul lead, include Darth Nihilus and Savage Opress, and then some combination of Sith Trooper, General Kenobi, and Emperor Palpatine. If instead you want to use a Darth Vader lead, use your Darth Sidious, Count Dooku, Darth Nihilus, and Sith Trooper or General Kenobi. And if you want to use a Darth Nihilus lead, pair Darth Nihilus with a Count Dooku, Darth Sidious, Sith Trooper, and General Kenobi. So those are the teams I would put together. I also took the liberty of looking through your mods to kind of see where you're at and where you stand on those. Now, Darth Maul, it can be a little bit tricky to mod, but I would recommend more than 50 speed if you're using him, because yes, if he's the leader, he'll definitely get the first attack, but at 150 speed, he's not going to be doing damage often, so you really want to speed him up. If possible, you can drop a ton of the tenacity and add some crit chance and potency. Because right now his potency is at 0%. You definitely want to up his potency to the realm of 50% if possible, so that his daze has a chance of landing. So getting the extra crit damage is great. Getting the extra physical damage and crit chance is good, but you're better off focusing on things like tenacity, potency, and dropping the extra tenacity for speed. I notice you have a lot of extra defense from mods somewhere, which you don't need. I would try your best to get rid of that, because 4% armor from mods is a lot. So wherever you're getting the health, get rid of it and throw in potency and speed instead. For your Savage, if you're going to use him in your group, he's another interesting one to mod, but I notice you have a crit damage set, but only a crit chance of 34%. So you're not truly using your crit damage set. Instead, you'd be better off putting in a good offense set, or even a couple critical chance sets. So that is what you could use. He doesn't really need a ton of tenacity, because with crit as rampant as it is, he will get crit often, and he cleanses himself on those crits. So unless you're using him in the tank raid, which at 46% tenacity you're not, you don't need tenacity on him. Potency could be useful, but it's definitely not something you want to focus on with him. And neither is speed. Savage Opress does not need speed, because whenever he gets hit, which will happen quite a bit, again because there's so many AoEs out there, he gains turn meter. So speed is not as useful, tenacity is not as useful. Instead, you are better off getting straight health, protection, physical damage or offense, and critical chance. Okay, so and some defense couldn't hurt, but it's definitely not necessarily what you want to go out of your way to find. Instead, you want to stick with offense and crit chance with some health. Like, you just want straight up offense, primarily with Savage Opress. Your Darth Sidious, I noticed your triangle was protection. Regardless of what the secondary stats are, you want to get him a crit chance or crit damage triangle. Yes, the speed set is nice. He does get a great bonus. But if there's any way to put in a crit chance or a crit damage primary stat mod here, use that. His potency is over the cap, because every character has a 15% native chance to resist any effect. Any potency over really 85% doesn't get used. So on his character sheet you have 49% potency plus 50% from his Zeta. So you literally have 99% potency. You really should try and drop at least 20% of that. Okay, and you want to float somewhere around 80%. So if perhaps you could drop this potency for an offense primary or a tenacity primary, both of those would be useful. Because he does so much passive healing, you definitely don't want to get Darth Sidious to have his get a healing immunity debuff. So don't need the potency set, and you might even be able to get rid of the potency set and the potency cross. Instead, throw in like an offense cross and a crit chance set, along with a crit chance or crit damage triangle. That would help out your Darth Sidious tremendously. Your Darth Trooper, another one that I looked at. Not too bad. I didn't have too many notes on your your Sith Troopers mods, except you might be better off with a Tenacity Cross instead of a Protection Cross, because you really want your Sith Trooper as a tank to have super high tenacity, and you only have 33%. So he is going to get buff immunity, ability blocked, stuns, those kind of things pretty often, and you want him to remain debuff free. So a Tenacity Cross could help. Protection Primary is great. If you have a crit avoidance arrow, you might want to think about giving that a try. I may have one on mine. I don't know mathematically which is better, protection, crit avoidance, or defense. But with, again, so much crit chance going on, and leaders like the new Commander Luke Skywalker increasing the critical chance for everybody, it might not be a bad idea to get that crit chance. To get that crit avoidance, so that you reduce all the multipliers that the damage other people are doing, and it might come out to more effective health than protection. So just something to think about. Your Count Dooku, pretty good. I personally wouldn't put health sets on him. I would maybe drop all 4 of them for a offense set, or possibly more crit chance sets. And on his triangle, instead of offense, you probably want crit chance. Not that offense is bad, but the crit chance will probably do more for you. I also had a gander at your Darth Nihilus mods, but they seemed pretty good. Had a look at your Emperor Palpatine mods. And depending on what group you put him in, you may want to drop the defense mods for crit chance mods so that he actually does more damage. It's a good thing you've got plenty of speed on him. You might want to try and get a little more potency, but he doesn't necessarily need shock, though it is useful because he's the only Sith, aside from Count Dooku's special, that does provide any type of healing or buff immunity. So potency for him could be helpful. And you definitely want to get more offense on him so that when he does damage, it's much better. So those are the recommendations I would make to your Sith. You could use either one of those 3 teams. Like, again, either a Darth Maul lead with a Darth Nihilus, Savage Opress, and then some combination of Sith Trooper, General Kenobi, Emperor Palpatine. You could throw in a Darth Vader lead with a Darth Sidious, Count Dooku, Darth Nihilus, and either Sith Trooper, General Kenobi. Or you could try a Darth Nihilus group with Dooku, Darth Sidious, Sith Trooper, and General Kenobi. Now, moving into territory battles, or if you feel like Sith are just not cutting it, I did see a pretty strong group that you could switch to fairly quickly, and that is a Jedi group with the Jedis Qui-Gon Jinn, Jedi Knight Anakin, Ahsoka Tano, Old Ben, and R2-D2, with the idea that eventually your Old Ben is going to be replaced by General Kenobi, and with the intention of gearing up and starring Ezra Bridger to replace Ahsoka Tano. Because you're going to use Ezra Bridger anyways, because you're going to want Thrawn at some point, and Ezra Bridger is required for some of the bonus missions in territory battles. So it is a good thing that your Sith are geared, because in these upcoming territory battles, you're going to definitely want to gear out your rebels some more. The a Rogue One group, a Phoenix group, and then just other random rebels, all going to be useful for you. So definitely want to focus on those guys once you settle on an arena team and get your rebels geared, your Phoenix squad, your Rogue One squad, and just overall rounding out your light side group. So Holyone, those are my recommendations for you. Just little bits and pieces that could bump you up from running between 50 and 70 to possibly comfortably staying between 20 and 40. I hope that you're able to use those mod recommendations, find the mods, and throw them onto your Sith team as needed. And if that Sith team doesn't work out, those Jedi are there ready to go. And perhaps somebody that's more experienced could point you to a solid Rebel squad. But just at a glance, if you wanted to use maybe a Wedge Antilles lead with Stormtrooper Han, R2-D2, Princess Leia, and Biggs Darklighter, you could definitely ruin somebody's day. But again, if you want to stay with the Sith, stick with them. I'm sure they will do awesome. And hopefully these tips can lead you back into the top 20. And with that, Chaos, this is Kalatos saying good evening and enjoy your arenas and raids.